Network Entertainment.
You're watching and listening to Now Steaming. This is our brand new season, and we're recording for the first time at the brand new TPN studios. So shout out to our friends over at the Pod Network for making this happen. Thank you guys. And congrats on the brand new studio. This is the second season we're recording here in 2025, and I'm just so proud that both Kim and Sed here are still able to get through the podcast despite their wedding planning. So big ups to them that they're able to make it work, because I sure was not able to make it work when my now wife and I were planning our own wedding.
Yeah, well, we're trying. But I just wanted to say I love the evolution of the podcast since this is the new season. So we started off recording stuff over on Zoom. Eventually, we went to like the old studio, and then we went to our last event, which is where we met our guests, right? And
our
then
first
now,
live episode.
yes, and then now we're here in this brand new studio, which is my first time here, by the way. I know it's not your
Yes,
first time.
and they
Stan.
now have an in-house coffee house.
So shout out to
Shout out.
our in-house barista, Ivan, who's also the producer for this episode of the podcast.
Different flavors, by the way.
So sobrang ganado kami to record these new episodes. If you're catching an episode of Now Steaming for the first time, by the way, my name is Stan C, and I'm joined as always by my co-hosts. They are the co-creators of So Asian Comics, Kimberly Mas and Cedric Cheng. And clearly, we are riding the high off of a very successful appearance at the Lanang Symposium. Huge thanks to our friends Mea Angsi and Wilkinson Gonzalez for organizing that. The people over at Bahay Tsinoy at Kaisa. And the entire community that we got to hang out with during that Lanang Symposium. And by the time you're listening to this, the audio-only version of that live podcast should already be on your feeds. But ano yung biggest thing for you guys coming out of the Lanang Symposium?
I think because we did it in the first year, but as you know, it was about the comics. And in second format, it's nice to have like an actual live audience giving feedback to you about the topics that we talk about. It's usually just us, right? Like we don't have external forces, external people actually giving
External
us
feedback.
Yeah, external feedback. So it was nice to have that in person, live. I've always wanted to do that. I know you also wanted to do that. So it's great to have that experience.
For me, what struck me was the attendance, actually. Like a lot of the youths were there.
Nini-record sila eh. Field trip
Oh,
nila
shit,
yun eh.
really?
Parang tayo lang.
Oh, right. No, but the fact that you can genuinely see how they're interested despite being... Because I didn't have that experience, but to see it in other people, right, and especially younger generation, for me, it's like, oh, okay, there is like a strong interest for people to explore their roots outside of like, I guess, being forced academically.
Okay lang, meron naman mga natulog dyan. I know it's a long day.
Yes,
but
it's a long day.
I wonder if anyone actually wrote a reflection paper and they were like, we
Graded reflection paper.
graded reflection
On
paper.
every single topic.
Shinout out nila yung
Sa
yung Now
Shawkai, joke
Steaming.
lang.
So it would be funny if meron talaga, but we'll never know unless one of the teachers is actually listening to this, in which case do let us know. Send us a message. Anyway, we're blabbing on way too long without having introduced our guest, and since pinag-usapan natin yung Lanang Symposium, we have to mention that our guest is someone we first touched base with at the Lanang Symposium. His talk was actually right before ours, and I was listening pretty much the entire time. I was very fascinated by his talk about being a Chinese Filipino, being Tsinoy, but having grown up in the US, and how that influenced yung kanyang introspection about identity and about what that means to him, and the work he's ended up doing. So let's introduce our guest. He is a social entrepreneur, a nonprofit leader, and a political strategist. Please welcome to the podcast, Clifford Temprosa Li. Hi, Cliff. Thank you for joining us on Now Steaming.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you so much.
Let's start off with yung talk mo on the at the Lanang Symposium. How did you even get involved? Because as we mentioned, you're not primarily based here in the Philippines, but you very much identify as Tsinoy as well.
Yeah, so I think really what it was sometime during 2023, I wanted to reclaim the Chinese heritage about my identity. For years, literally for 20 years, I denied it. I would tell people I'm just Filipino. I don't want to be Chinese. And then I re-embraced it. And then when it got to a time where, okay, the Chinese American community isn't something I really related to, how do I go back to the roots? And that was going back to the Philippines. And so I'm very shameless. I searched up Chinese or Lanang NGOs in the Philippines. I gave them a DM and an email. They got back to me, and then I booked my ticket. And here I am today. a month into my stay in the Philippines.
All right.
Wow.
You mentioned that you were ashamed of being Chinese. Being Chinese or being Chinese Filipino? Like which specifically was shameful for you? And I'm using air quotes here.
Being Chinese, I didn't know that being Chinese Filipino was deeply distinct. I would go into my school and I would say words in Lanangwe, in Hokkien, but then the Chinese Americans there or Chinese immigrants would say, I don't know what you're saying to me. That's not really how we say it. And so just the idea of being Chinese, it was really hard and complex growing up in America. It's very racialized over there.
Saan ka lumaki? Like which part of the States?
I grew up in New York, in the Bronx. So predominantly that's a very like Latino community,
Yeah.
Black and brown community. I grew up with a lot of Italians, but I did not grow up with a lot of Filipinos nor Asian Americans.
So what's that like? Parang, was there ever that need to connect with people who looked like you or who sounded like you?
I don't think I felt like I needed the need. It was more like I wasn't seen. I was growing up, people would smell my lunch boxes. They would say, "Why are you eating rice and egg? What is that you're eating?" And that's a real thing that not only myself, but a lot of people experience. So it wasn't as if I was looking for that connection. I thought it was normal to just not have it.
Okay. So when was the first time that you saw somebody who looked like you, who was like in mainstream media, or someone who you felt represented you on a larger scale?
Jackie Chan.
Okay. okay.
Okay, fair.
Rush Hour, kid.
It was Rush Hour.
Oh, there we go.
There you
It
go.
was Rush Hour. But then when you look at it, it's very much Hong Kong Cantonese
Yes.
figuration, right?
Yeah, so not ano pa rin, not Tsinoy, diba?
Yeah.
How about Linsanity? Like when Jeremy Lin blew up, was that something that resonated with you? I mean, granted, different din because Taiwanese American naman si Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, so when I play basketball, I love playing basketball. I'm a point guard. But when Jeremy Lin came up, it wasn't about being Chinese or Taiwanese American. It was, he's Asian. He's East Asian. He's up there representing us, right? Little did I even think about, oh, he's Taiwanese. Like he can understand or maybe understand like Hokkien or, right? And that's because the diaspora of the Asian community is so like diverse where I grew up, where as long as someone who looks like you wins, we're all winning.
So you mentioned growing up in the US and you got people smelling your lunch boxes, and I'm assuming it's because of the very distinct Chinese flavors and scents that come with your food, diba? So did you grow up with the more Chinese side or the more Filipino side of your background?
Interesting enough, it was a huge mix. My parents are very young. My parents at this point are 48, and so my dad and mom grew up in the 90s. So as much as I grew up eating lanang food, having the heritage, I also grew up distinctly Filipino because my entire household most of the time would speak in Lanangwe, but then to my mother, who's Filipina, they would speak in Tagalog. And so
So your mom's not Chinese at all?
she's not Chinese at all.
Oh.
My dad passed the Great Wall by accident because I am an accident many years ago.
Okay, so yun, pag-usapan natin yung Great Wall. Because you mentioned it yourself, right? Did your dad ever tell you stories about how that was an issue in their relationship?
So actually, we haven't gotten to that emotional point of being able to talk about, all I know is that my mom and dad met in college. They, got together, and then here I was. Then they moved to America, right? And so I had heard from my ama that, being there is a Great Wall. Actually, even though they are okay with who I date, I know in their hearts they probably prefer someone who is Lanang, right?
Even if you live in the Bronx, which is very black and brown, as you just said.
I mean, at this point now, I'm looking for someone Lanang.
Okay.
Oh, why? Why is that?
It's a connection.
After dating many different amazing people and getting to know a lot of people, I think at this point I'm like, you know what? The easiest culture to relate to is our own culture. And I can't find that in America. And so I guess I might discover it in the Philippines. But, when you date someone who is Chinese American, literally the food is different. The language is different. The dialect is different. The family values are different because the Chinese American identity is so distinct from what being Filipino Chinese can be, right?
Yeah.
And it's typically warmer on the Filipino side, a lot more love and care.
Okay, so super curious. So it was like you grew up in the States, so nothing here in the Philippines. Like you didn't move there when you were 2 or what? So
I
it's
moved
just-
to the States when I was 2.
Okay, I was right.
So I was born here at St. Luke's, and then we lived in
High
San Juan.
five.
Shout out. We lived for 2 years, and then my dad was already a green card holder. So he was just saving up to bring my mother and me to get to the United States. Actually, even the story is that My dad was so young that my ama and angkong at the time were the ones who paid for my mother's petition and visas and all of that. And they weren't married. So if you ever wonder about my name, it's Clifford Robin Temprosa, which is my mom's name. But since they weren't married, I couldn't take the Li. And my dad had to write and acknowledge that I am his son on the paper. But now I'm starting to really embrace having that as a part of my name and who I am and how I tell people my story.
So on official documents, say like IDs and stuff, it's just Clifford Temprosa, or is it officially Clifford Temprosa Li?
No, right now it's Clifford Temprosa because the due process of changing the
Yes.
name is
Right. Okay.
really bureaucratic and annoying sometimes.
But you mentioned you moved to the States at 2, but in the intervening years, have you ever had a chance to like visit back from time to time?
Yeah, I think I came back 4 times.
Okay.
One was 2007. One was, I think, 2010, 2015.
Okay.
And then 2018, and then now. So now it's the 5th time. All personal. But this is the first time I'm really proud to say I'm here with intention. I'm here with purpose. It's not a vacation. It's to really immerse myself in how do I engage, build, and how do I impact a community that I've always felt connected to, but I just never grew up with.
Yung last name mo is something that I'm curious about just because you mentioned na now you're going by your dad's last name as well, which is like the direct connection to the Chinese side of you, right? But what moved you to actually include it? Kasi you can just go by your own government name and not have to use the Li in your name, diba? So why is that significant for you?
I think when you add that name, no matter who you are, where you go, it signifies the generations and years of struggle, of resilience. It signifies and honors how my uncle worked days and nights just to provide for my dad to come, how my dad also worked really hard to come. It talks about our migration from China to the Philippines and to Bicol, right? So it really is an homage to where I come from and carrying that legacy forward.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add also, since you talk a lot about your angkong and ama, or your grandpa and your grandma at this case, did they actually move with you to the States? That's why they had a really big influence on you, or is it more of like you got this during your visits, or what was the story like?
So they initially came, I think, in somewhere in the late 90s. Again, I was not even an idea or in existence back then. So because my parents worked really, they worked hard. They worked through days and nights and weekends. My angkong and my ama, my grandparents, were the ones who raised me. So after school, my ama would pick me up or take care of me. My uncle would come home, then my parents would come home late. Any time that I had with my parents was typically on the weekends or when we were, ending our evenings. But I was really raised by my grandparents when I was growing up.
And they never expose you to like anything culturally Tsinoy, like let's say TFC or yung mga Chinese telenovelas
They
that
did.
our
I
grandparents
grew
would.
up with watching 14.
Okay.
Oh,
grew up-
14, yeah.
May bukas pa.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, these are things I watched as a kid.
Oh naman, yeah.
Yeah. Got to
Young and-
believe.
Okay,
R.I.P.
yeah.
R.I.P.
Rico yan.
Yeah.
Yan.
Uh-huh. So you grew up watching these things, and so may connection ka pa rin to like the local culture.
Yeah, my family is still very much, and one example is we're very much like Buddhist as well, right?
Okay.
So as much as we went to church, it's very normal. We also, did alay. We
Yeah.
honored
Yeah, yeah.
Nagka-hapopi
ancestors.
din kayo.
We did hapopi. My great-grandfather, who's the one who migrated to New York, actually, he's in a Buddhist temple in Chinatown in New York.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So nandun yung ashes niya.
His ashes are there. We go there, offer, and then we, celebrate with the monks there.
Right. And even your use of the word allied, diba? Like a lot of the migrants to the US probably wouldn't even use the word ally anymore just because medyo na whitewash na sila. So it says a lot that you actually still use some of the Filipino terms that the Tsinoy community would use in these contexts.
I would say my family did a great job with making sure I was still cultured.
Okay, what do you mean by cultured?
It's very easy to assimilate in America, right? So, and I always talk about how when you grow up in America, you first have to reckon with if you're Asian or American, right? So what values you're going to live by, how you're going to live your life. Then on top of that, to be multi-ethnic, I had to decide, am I Filipino or am I Chinese? And that was a whole identity crisis in and of itself, it led me to deny my Chinese culture because it was just easy to pick one box and check one box, right?
Yeah.
But why Filipino? Why not the Chinese side?
Why Filipino? Actually, I don't know. But I think that has to do with the idea that when you hear them talk, it's like, oh, we grew up in the Philippines, my dad and my parents. they did speak Filipino at home, and so they would say, "You're Filipino." Then when they brought in the Chinese side, I was like, "What makes me Chinese? Like we're not from mainland China,
Yeah.
right?"
And it's
that's
harder to explain.
It's harder to explain, and actually, most Filipino Americans who talk to me about this, they assume my parents are from mainland China.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can't really explain that. Oh, they're not really from mainland China. They grew up in the Philippines, so it's like a very long process
too
of
long to
explaining. Yeah.
explain.
It's a too long process to explain. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think I'm Filipino.
But question, as someone as myself who's never been to like mainland US, right? What's the difference between like Chinese Filipino with Chinese Americans? Like what you mentioned that different dialects, different food, like how so?
Yeah. So the majority of folks in New York who are Chinese immigrant or Chinese American are typically speaking Mandarin, Cantonese, Taishanese, Shanghainese, and so forth. And so, me being, I think I'm a fourth gen, like Tsinoy at this point, there's a lot of things that they do that I don't recognize. I can't understand. It's very, very rooted back into them coming back from mainland. And then there's a language barrier, right? Growing up, I was learning Lan Nangwe. My ama would tell me to learn Mandarin, but then the Mandarin never stuck. So I literally have a language barrier with the entire Chinese American community.
Yeah, kasi when you say Lan Nang Way, you're referring to
Yeah.
Philippine Hokkien, which is the way that we speak the
Yeah.
language.
Yes.
Which, when you really get down to the nitty-gritty linguistics, held back na siya eh. Like, it's antiquated compared to like the Taigi that the Taiwanese would speak in, diba? So when you go to, for example, to Chinatown in New York or to like the East Village, where a lot of the East Asian immigrants are at, you don't relate with like
Yeah.
whatever you see there.
I relate a little bit. Oranges is good for ally. Like you wear
Yeah.
red, you celebrate these holidays.
Yes.
But then when you start saying, "Oh, what's this food?" I have to learn Cantonese words.
Okay. Yeah, I think I want to put out a Gen Z term here. It's called same but diff. Like I
Okay.
think that's exactly I don't know. That's how I feel about the situation there. Same but diff.
I don't know that term, and I'm
Yeah.
Gen Z.
Oh
but
my gosh, I'm more Gen Z than you. Yeah, same but diff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at Kim here, aura farming.
Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah.
using a Gen Z term
Yeah.
in the proper context, Kim.
We're aura maxing here, yes sir.
Yes. So growing up in the US, no, sabi mo it was hard to like connect kasi nga wala kang makarelate culturally. Was there like an event that served as a catalyst for you to decide na okay, gusto ko mas mag-connect pa with that Chinoy side of me or the Chinoy culture that I feel so far away from?
Yeah, 3 distinct events. When I joined the political ecosystem and I started seeing a lot of anti-Asian hate, and I started saying, okay, I'm not just Filipino, I'm also Chinese. Disproportionately, when you think Stop Asian Hate, it's towards Chinese immigrants and Chinese Americans because it's more of an East Asian association. So I started saying, okay, we need to actually step up and voice out. Third is when I spoke about this at a symposium, when they're called Fuzhou America. They are basically a Gen Z millennial organization that it's like a family association, but they're all from Fuzhou. They embraced me because they're saying, doesn't matter if you're not from Fuzhou, you're still FJ, you're still from Fujian. And so you're one of us, you're our people. And working with them and speaking at their events, I started to really embrace like, okay, for the first time ever, I literally remember this. Growing up, every kid who grows up here who's Landang, they probably have their ama sing to them in Ni Wan Wa Ai Ni.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
song,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
what the scene,
All-time
yeah.
classic,
Yeah.
yes.
Literally never related to it my entire life until I walked into their conference in 2023. Then in between sessions, they played the song and I said, wow, this is home. I feel this. Then I started researching more like the difference between coming from Fuzhou, then coming from like Xinjiang or Xiamen.
Yeah.
And then there's like a very nuanced difference. And then that led me to really embracing it more.
How did you even get into politics? Kasi normally, at least here for the Chinoys, ba, yung parang tinuturo sa amin ng elder generations is stay away from politics or wag ka na makigulo, don't make noise.
Yeah,
diba?
it's just trouble to join politics.
Be
Be
the
the model
model-
minority.
yeah,
diba?
model
Just
minority.
Same thing.
Quite, yeah.
I was a pre-med in college. I failed. And I will literally say I failed and I dropped out because I'm so proud of doing that. Because a lot of people get stuck into the mentality of you have to be a doctor, whether you like it or not. You have to be an engineer, whether you like it or not. But first semester, I was 17 or 18, failed. I dropped out, went into business. Then 2 years later, the pandemic hit. And in the pandemic, that's when everyone either evolved themselves or they kind of stagnated, right? At that point, I was looking at how the world was really going to shit. How
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter was happening, how the Me Too movement, Stop Asian Hate, racial justice was literally on the line, and I said, okay, do I want to be someone who posts on social media all the time, or do I want to go out there and show people that people who look like me, who look like us, aren't here to harm you. We're here to build and to build better. And so that led me to doing food pantries, DMing government officials and politicians to say, hey, I want to get involved. So be it. I volunteered. They gave me a job, and then my eyes were opened on the political arena. And first thing I said was, where are the people who look like me? There's no one who's multi-ethnic, no one who's Gen Z. And the entire Asian community is very siloed into their own bubbles, meaning Filipinos just work with Filipinos, Chinese just work with Chinese, Indian just with Indian, most of the time. And I wanted to find an intersection of all of that.
You mentioned yung Stop Asian Hate, and for those who are living under a rock, talagang lumakas yung Stop Asian Hate discourse during the pandemic, especially when Chinese people, the Chinese diaspora was largely blamed for better or worse because of the COVID pandemic. Right.
Yep.
So did you feel it firsthand? Yung parang people looking at you a certain way just because you're of Chinese ethnicity na ikaw yung dahilan, but may virus or whatever.
Yeah, 3 times. So first time was I was driving, and then I made a right turn, and then a pickup truck drove one in front of me, got out the car, and then good thing I locked the door, started banging and hitting and wanted to break the glass, like, you're not welcome here. Why are you here? Blah, 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 blah. 1. 2, I was walking down the street with my former mentor. She's a senator now, and someone automatically just started coming up to me being like, you're from China, get out of here. Why are you here? And at the time, we were handing out the face masks for people.
Yeah.
And they were saying, those masks are from China, you're from China, get out of here, right? And then, so those were 2 moments that really, again, not as bad as what other people have experienced, but hate is very much real, especially towards people who have a singular mindset of what they want to see in the world.
And it's something na even yung mga kamag-anak nating Tsinoy who have already migrated to the US. I can speak from my experience. My mother's side, they're all based in the West Coast right now. They've been there for the last 30 plus years, and even they felt the paranoia and the fear at the height of the pandemic. So, hindi siya yung tipong gawa-gawa lang. These are actual, real, concrete experiences.
Yeah, it's real, and it comes in all facets, right? And this is just truth. You are going to experience it whether it's someone who is white, who is black, who is Latino, who is also Asian, right? And that's because I think sometimes we're forced to live in a scarcity mindset of competition where whatever the story headline, you target them, that's the only reasonable outcome of why things are the way that they are.
And what's it like when you get discriminated on by another minority? Because it's kind of fucked up. You're laughing now, Sed, but it's really fucked up, diba?
Yeah. You're being used as a scapegoat, basically.
Oh, what's that like?
I think that the problem's systemic. It's like you need to think about, okay, their action to you is the outcome of what their environment growing up is, their viewpoint, how the media portrays them, right? And so when someone comes up to me who is also a minority, who is saying all these words, the first thing I think of is, that's because people are forcing us to live in a bubble where all of us have to be targeting each other. In American history, Chinese exclusion, Japanese internment camps, everyone was pointing a finger at someone because there was not enough resources being allocated to every community who needed them, right? Whether it's racial class or economic class who are deviating the resources.
Okay.
Do you feel lost, doubting yourself, and tired? You question your worth and existence? Well, I'm here for you. Hey, this is Gailey Chavez, and I'm the host of Free Yourself Podcast. My podcast talks about self-love, self-discovery, and growth. This is for everyone who wants to live their fullest life and become the person that they could be. Let me help out and remind you that this is your life, your path, that you are not broken, and you are worth it. Catch me every Friday at 8 p.m. See ya!
Well, it makes me really curious too, what your reaction was to all of that, those 3 situations that you mentioned, because we also talked about this in another episode where my cousins, somebody came up to them randomly in the mall saying that the West Philippine Sea is ours. and that's it. And he walked away. So that was one example, the closest one that I can think of here in the Philippines. So how did it like? How did you react after you were giving out face masks? Somebody says you should go back to China. What was your
It
reaction?
motivated me more to continue the work that I'm doing, because I'm not gonna let the hate really drown out my passion or what I feel like my values are. And if my values are that, hey, this issue is systemic, then this is just a lived experience I need to make me understand why they hate me. Like, why do you hate me? Is it because you felt like you don't have enough? Is it because you feel like the world is not going your way, right? And so it fueled me.
So what is the work that you do and how does it relate to being Chinese Filipino? Kasi now we've talked about an experience that East Asians or people who look
Yeah.
East Asians across the board experience. Pero zooming into being Chinese Filipino, especially in your case in the US, what is the work that you do and how does it affect your being Tsinoy?
Yeah, well, if you ask my stepdad and sometimes my dad, I think before they would just say I just go to rallies and protest, which, yes, that's important, but we do more than that, right? So what we do is we scale NGOs and social enterprises and political candidates who really want to make a difference and impact. So meaning, if there is a Filipino NGO, we would get them $50,000 so that they can do anti-deportation work in the United States. If there is a Chinese NGO who needs to build their visibility, we will do their video production, tell them how to storytell to younger generations in Mandarin, Cantonese, Hokkien, and in English, right? So wherever impact can lie, we scale it to make sure that the Asian community is represented in resource allocation, in the industry standard of what, or in the capitalistic standard of what an NGO should be. And then we help people who have values get into office by messaging, by storytelling, by helping them get voters.
I'm curious, is this just open for the people in the United States or is it also open for people who are here in the Philippines?
So very excited that we are working on registering Dare to Change, which is the company name in the Philippines. And we are working towards building up client leads here. So we want to expand our impact across on a global level, and where better to start than in the home of the Philippines.
What's the reception been like? Kasi you're coming in with this new idea, for lack of a better term, diba? And I'm assuming you're introducing this to the older generations, much of whom are probably still stuck in the mindset na wag ka na lang magingay, wag ka na makigulo.
Yeah. So actually very interesting that when I surveyed and met with a lot of NGOs here, they have the exact same problems as NGOs or Asian-led NGOs in America, where fundraising is outdated, social media is outdated, how they view impact is outdated. Everything is on a very traditional format. And so when I talked to them here, at first glance, I was surprised that they didn't have a business model that they saw that could support them in this way. And second, I think they feel very, very excited. At least the ones I spoke to. They're very excited because they know what needs to change. I think sometimes we have to give people credit, especially older generations, to say that maybe it's not that they don't want change at times, it's that they may not know how to execute the change that needs to be seen. But you can see them trying. And that's an intergenerational dialogue at that point.
How about the States? What's the reaction been from the Chinoy community and maybe the older generations? And I kind of want to layer this, knowing that a lot of the older gen immigrants tend to swing towards the current administration there just because, sila yung problematic. I'm a model minority. I'm one of the good ones.
Yeah. So a lot of the work that we do is we try to deconstruct that framework and let them know that you could lean conservative if you'd like, but that doesn't mean you need to believe every single thing that someone is telling you.
Yes.
Right? Because you can see the outcomes then and therefore, right? For us, the outcomes are does your NGO get funding depending on administration? If you don't get funding, then the outcome isn't there for you, right? Another outcome could be, well, this administration is quote unquote doing well, but you can see left and right that people are being targeted. Your fellow Filipinos are being targeted. Your fellow Lanang are being targeted, right? And also, in an administration that wants to promote economic opportunity, a lot of the Chinoys who are in the States, I do know some of them, they are business owners, do directly benefit from the economic policies being pushed. No, they have not, right? I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it does naman. It does naman. And I guess I say this kasi there now is this sweeping paranoia of, kunwari, legal na sila, they already have the blue passport and everything. For all intents and purposes, they're every bit as American as the next guy.
Yeah.
And yet there's that fear of ICE showing up at their doorstep.
And that's because no matter what happens, to have a citizenship, it doesn't mean anything for a lot of people anymore, for a lot of policymakers. It's just something they provide you to say that you are a resident of this country. But if they really wanted to, they could strip the citizenship away with just by a court case. They could take any story that you have and they could strip it away. And so the ICE piece is really real, because if you really look at communities across New York and the States, they're showing up after school. They're waiting for you
Yes.
outside of hospitals when you're receiving care.
In church.
In church. That's literally a mandate. A lot of government officials pass laws where ICE can now come in there. And it makes you think about the privilege you feel like you have if you have a citizenship, but it also makes you feel like, okay, if they can do that, then at any point they can just take mine away.
This is basically history repeating itself, because this is, I know, looking back in history, like it was a common thing to do in a lot of fascist states, fascist governments back in the day. Germany, 1930s. You've also had it in America as well with the Japanese, right? So
The internment camps and
the internment camps.
even Filipino migration,
Yes.
right? Like, yes, we've been migrating to the States since like the 1800s, early
Yes.
1900s. But if you look at the 80s and 90s, which was the migration of teachers and nurses,
Yeah.
they came because America said, come,
Yeah.
right? But there was a specific case where those teachers were about to get deported just because America said, you need to leave.
So what's the goal here? As a Tsinoy living in the US, like, is the goal to band people together na parang, oh, we are the Chinese Filipinos that live in the US? Or is it to get a politician elected na Tsinoy yung origins niya? What's the goal?
I think at first we need to organize, right? Because the community is largely unorganized, right? Because at that point, once they move to the United States, although they live that Landang background, their consciousness is that we're a Filipino American. So when I do talk to people who are of Landang origin, they donate and support to larger like Philippines Independence Day events, like Philippine NGOs. But they don't see that they need to organize as a Landang community.
And what's the importance in that?
It's the preservation of our culture and heritage, right? It's to create the space to say, hey, we can be Filipino and we're also Chinese at the same time. And just because we are in America now, we need not forget that we do have this heritage or culture. And for me, I don't speak Mandarin, right? Like I never went to Chinese school. I don't speak Mandarin. My ama is the one who speaks Mandarin. My dad, to some extent, he went to Xavier. Shout out to Xavier. To some extent, Mandarin. But I think I've spoken to a lot of people of my generation, and they're very much afraid that they're losing that language. They may not know how to speak. They definitely don't know how to cook. It's gotten to a point where to be Filipino Chinese for a lot of people is just to wear red and give ambaos. But that's literally just the base level of it.
On a practical note, I have to ask, where does the money come in? Diba?
Yeah.
Kasi, one, we are still Chinoy, so we do think about the money of it all.
yeah.
But two, I'm sure your parents also ask you the same questions. Like, paano ka kikita? How will you survive in New York doing this type of work?
Yeah, and
the
even like
sustainability.
I think the usual question is like, are you getting paid for whatever you do? Yeah.
Actually, I'm very blessed to say that, this is a very big myth. NGOs do have money. They have a lot of money.
Para pasweldo.
Yes. The question is, when NGOs, do they use their money effectively? That's one.
Yeah.
Two, startup NGOs, the reason why they're not getting to the next level of growth, infrastructural growth, is because internally they may have old processes or are stubborn, meaning when they do get ₱1 million, they're not going to spend it on scaling capacity. They're going to spend it on mga gala-gala, banquet association dinners. And that is a criticism that I also have to deal with in the United States with the Chinese associations there. Because they want more, but they're not necessarily executing the work to prove that they should deserve more.
Okay, so just because you're a social entrepreneur, just because you work for a nonprofit, doesn't mean you don't get a sueldo every 2 weeks.
I mean, I can if I want to, but very honest with you, I expense everything on the business.
Okay, all right.
That makes sense.
So what's their reaction been then? Your family, especially the elders who have also experienced what you're experiencing now. It's just that they've managed to thrive in spite of it.
So actually, my parents have been very supportive. My dad is very supportive. My ama is very supportive. which I know is a very big privilege and blessing to have, as compared to other families where if I chose the same lifestyle, the same pathway, I could get kicked out of the house. I could get disowned from the family. I'm gonna get cut off, emotionally and with support. So I've always had that in the back of my head of, okay, if I'm gonna do this life, I need to commit to it. And by committing to it, that means I need to be the best or most effective, impactful as what I can be. It always goes back to the point of I can't stagnate because I'm not gonna let my angkong sacrifices, my dad's sacrifices go to waste. They got the opportunity to bring me there, and so I really need to make the most of it.
I'm also curious, like when relatives ask your parents, like, "Oh, what does Clifford do? Like, what's the usual like?
How
What do
do
your
they
parents
explain
say?
it?
It, yeah.
Maki baka. That's really what sometimes they say that. My stepdad says that. But I think they get to a point now where they say that he works in politics, he has his own business, he works with NGOs. Not necessarily the best way I would say it, but they're starting to understand. Actually, before I came here, I was awarded by the Knights of Rizal, which is an order for Jose Rizal. And my dad gave my awarding speech, and I was really emotional because for the first time in his life, he really, I felt like he acknowledged what I was doing. And I cried, and I'm going to say this because he said this one line that was, when I was 20, he was saying, you're 24, you have your own business, you're speaking around the world, whatever it may be. When I was 24, my biggest accomplishment was having you. And for me, that made me cry. It makes me emotional even now because they were young, they didn't know what they were doing, and yet they were still able to provide and sacrifice their own self to make sure they were raising me well, my mom and my dad.
Hindi lang yun, that they actually expressed it.
That's the biggest I love you I've ever felt.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest flex.
Yeah.
Like Tsinoy parents rarely actually vocalize that, let alone in front of a big
an audience
platform, diba? Big audience.
Yeah, no, exactly. Most of the time, my dad, when he expresses love, it's, did you pay your parking tickets? Did you pay your speeding tickets? Why didn't you do this? Why don't you do that?
Do they also say di tiakbe or no?
Or have you eaten
Oh,
yet?
My
Yeah.
dad has never said di chape.
So I think it's different for us.
Okay.
Yeah. Us is that was it.
My amma says di chape,
Okay,
but
yeah.
my dad is just like, he comes home, doesn't ask that.
Okay.
He just wants his own time.
Oh,
Okay.
On the lighter side of things, for those of you who are listening to the podcast but weren't at Dilan ng Symposium, Cliff actually closed his talk in a very fascinating way. He pimped himself out and said, if anybody wants to get me involved in a kaishaw situation, you can go through my ama. Right?
Yes.
So I want to ask you about this because you actually went out there in front of hundreds of people and said, I am game to be kaishawed.
Yeah.
Why and how? How did this come about?
Spur of the moment. Was it a spur of the moment, or you actually thought about this?
No, I made the slides an hour before, and I said, "Oh, okay, wait, how do I close this? I'm gonna use this topic, right?"
And familiar siya sa'yo even though you didn't grow up here.
Yeah, it's very familiar because my amma would be calling her friends, right? Because they all have granddaughters, and it's like, oh, do you have someone to kaishaw for my apo, blah blah blah. And so I said, okay, you know what? I am single. Second, it'd be nice to date someone who's landang. And then third, I think we need to add humor to all of these tough topics, right?
Sure.
Do we still have a kaishawable shirt?
Oh yeah, we should have
For
brought
Soy
that.
Film Comics.
You should have brought that. You should have
Duly
worn that.
noted.
Yeah, noted.
I will ask your size.
Yeah. So have you actually gone through the experience? May nakaishaw na ba sa'yo to the point that you went on a date? Was there ever a second date?
My stepmom just texted me the other day saying, hey, while you're there, we just met with your dad's high school friends. They're going to set something up for you. We're talking to their parents right now.
Okay.
So the date
So yun
is
pa lang.
to be determined.
Yeah, TBA.
Okay.
TBA.
All right.
It's TBA. Yeah.
So it's still in time for that kaishawable shirt.
We'll get
Don't
that
worry,
shirt.
we'll get you
Yep,
that.
yep.
no,
More
give it to me
importantly-
before that, and I'll wear it on the date.
Oh,
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah, going back to that, you've been posting reels about it also on social media.
Yeah.
About your ama actually setting up a kaishaw date for you. Did that actually happen, or that was just more for content?
That was for content.
for the clout.
That was for the clout. That was for the clout. But I started thinking, okay, I think, how do we make landang humor? And especially in the States, I think it's very much needed. And the first thing I think of is, okay, I'm very shameless. So let's talk about dating life and the love life and what are the different ways in which we engage with it. And it's been really, really funny. We have a few more pieces coming out. But my typical content is about like the public sector and
Yeah.
social
Yes,
serious
yes,
stuff.
You know,
yes.
but we like to keep it humorful too.
So, hindi ba siya nakakahiya? Like, okay, and I don't ask this to like shame you, but more of hindi ka ba nahihiya to put yourself out there and say na, I'm actually willing to go through the whole kaisha of it all. Just because when I was single, I would not have been caught dead, being kaisha to anyone. Just because for me, it's like, inamin ko sa buong mundo na wala akong makilala on my own.
I think for me, it's not someone I haven't met on my own. It's more like I've met a lot of people. Now I want to find someone who aligns with who my identity is. So it's reversed.
And buti na lang, like, you trust your folks' tastes, right? Because honestly, that was like one of my biggest fears.
Apprehension din yan eh.
Yeah.
Wait,
Well,
because I don't trust my parents'
Yeah,
taste.
because you say it so casually, like it's fine if my ama finds me a date. I'm like, my ama finds me a date with whom?
Because I've dated women and I've met women and at the time you don't listen to them, but from the get go you're not good. Then later on I realized, yeah, you were right. And so at this point I trust their taste.
Oh wow, that's very interesting.
Has it ever failed you though? Like has their judgment in taste given you a bad date na parang made you reconsider na?
No. Their judgment, if I listened to it earlier, probably would have saved me a lot of money.
Oh shit.
Oh, okay.
All right. Valid.
All right, so this is very interesting kasi yun nga, at least for us millennials, diba? Like there is a certain stigma to kaishao na parang yun nga,
Yeah.
it's corny or
It's embarrassing because I can't find someone on my own, or parang nakakahiya baka there's something wrong with you that you have to go through kaisha, right?
Yes. Especially for a guy, like, you're young, you're 24, diba?
Yeah.
Normally, if you're a guy going through the kaishao process here in the Philippines, chances are you're a Tsinoy in your 40s who's been in the family business since forever.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm beating the stereotype, but at this point, it's just like whatever. I've gone through enough circles and rounds to know that maybe sometimes like your family probably knows you the best.
Okay. I mean, whoever gets to go on a date with you because of kaishao, they're probably thinking na, he shuttles between Manila and New York, green flag na yan. Ibig sabihin may pambili ng ticket. Right?
Yeah, actually, it's so hilarious, and the joke is probably going to end here because when I meet people, I don't tell them where I'm from. I just say I live in BGC at this point. And then I speak in a very, very deep accent. But growing up in a Landang household, Filipino household, I can code switch my accents. Like you can tell slightly, but I don't let anyone know I speak Tagalog or Hokkien until I trust them a little bit more because I'm afraid they just want me for the green card.
Right.
Which is very valid at sometimes, right? Like you
Sure.
have to acknowledge that.
Sure, yeah. Okay. It's just pretty interesting to actually see a young person be like, yes, bring on the kaishao, let me go through the whole process
amount of
until they
trust.
decide otherwise. Yes, the amount of trust is just
I also think
mind-boggling
it's just
to me.
like really hilarious. It's gonna be a great like story to tell, whether it works out or not. I say it like this: the worst thing that happens is you come out with like a really good friend in your life.
Sure. Yeah.
True.
What do your friends say about this? 'Cause I'm sure you've got friends in the US who have no idea what kaishao is, let alone understand the many layers that go into it. So how do they react to
So
this,
when I
this type
say
of
I want to
content?
get guy showed, and I say it's an arrangement, they typically think I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna like walk into like a door where I'm getting married to someone I don't know, and
Parang
then
Mulan, yeah.
it's like Mulan, like, oh, you're just walking into it. And then I explain, like, not really. Like, these days, it's more like we're going to set you up on a date, whether, if it goes well or not, like, this is just a family friend's daughter that we know or whatever it may be.
'Cause it's literally an introduction. That's what
It's
kaishao
just an
is.
introduction. But also, I work with a lot of people who are South Asian. And so arranged marriage for them is really, really big, where they go home and then they really do get married.
And without having ever met this person.
Sometimes yes,
Yeah.
sometimes yes.
Which makes me curious, like when was the concept of kaishao introduced to you? Because
Oh,
obviously they won't introduce this to you when you were
I was
5,
young.
right?
I was young.
Really?
I was young.
So how did they actually introduce the concept of kaishao to
I
you?
think my dad and my mom were still together, and then I think I was like 9 or 10 at the time, and then my dad was going through some old photos of like prom or something, and then he said to my mom, "Oh, look, this is someone who I got kaishao to," and then I was like, "What's kaishao?" They're like, "Oh, it's when you get introduced to someone," and then as I grew older, like I started to realize what it really meant, and then my ama would talk about it more, and then literally, I'm gonna be very shameless. Every few days, I'm like, "Ama, like, just do it. You know, like set me up.
So pag kinaisyo sa'yo, dapat Chinoy din siya. Like it can't be someone who's not Chinoy.
Actually, very interesting enough. I'm open to wherever you're from, but my preference might probably be Chinoy because I want to be able to speak Lanangwe. Like I want to be able to cook for you the food and you understand it. I want my child to also understand the language.
It's a lot of green flags right there. Pag
Yeah.
luto ka niya, gusto niya magkaanak.
I'll be the cook too because I'm learning all of the recipes.
Uh-huh.
So like I can cook pares and patatim and lumpia and
You went from
kiampong.
Paris to Patatim so effortlessly.
Green flag, green card na rin.
Yeah.
You've heard it here in this episode.
Okay, so if they want to get in touch with
Yeah.
your amma and put their names in the hat, how do they do that?
You know, my amma is very, very great. You just go on Facebook, Nelly Li, last name Li,
There we
and
go.
she'll accept the Facebook request. She's also single, my amma.
Are we looking into kaisha someone to your
Also
amma
to your
too?
amma.
My
Wow.
uncle passed, I think, about 10 years ago, and you know,
She's down for a second chance at love.
well, she's gonna think about it, but I want to set her up. So ideally, if there is an
Yo.
uncle with a granddaughter, so it's kind of like 2 in 1,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
you know, like
Hit two birds with one stone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can this be a future episode?
I don't know where we're gonna find that, but
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Guy show premium.
Show premium. Only
Yeah.
here. Now it's steaming.
Yeah, this episode just
Yeah,
went so
just-
many different ways,
yeah.
but I love it.
Yeah.
It's a fun way
That's
to.
that's identity, right? It
Yeah,
can just
exactly.
go in a million different ways.
And yeah, very interesting because I think it's one of those things, at least here in the Philippines, very uniquely Chinoy because of the kaisha of it all, right? And how you bucked a lot of the paths that were laid out for us to just follow mindlessly. So, Clifford, if you want to get in touch with people who can help with Dare to Change or who want to connect with you over business or over
Over-
politics or
Love.
Kai
Love.
Shao, yes. Yes.
where can people get in touch with you?
So you can follow me on Instagram at Clifford Temprosa, CLIFFORD, like the big red dog.
Yes.
TEMPROSA. And then on email, Clifford at WeDareToChange.com. Social media is always open, so you can just find me there.
All right. I'm so thankful that you made time for us.
Yeah.
Dapat last week pa to, pero
Yeah.
we're recording this in late July. And as you know by now, binagyo tayo ng malala nung
Yeah.
nung July,
That
right?
was my
So-
first experience.
Oh
Oh
God.
yeah.
Yeah, I was really excited.
Whoa.
Because I was going downstairs and I was like, oh my God. Like, you know how some people say, when the rain comes, you just have to wear an umbrella.
Sure.
My experience living here for the past month and wanting to really immerse is the rain comes, you just feel it.
People are dying, Clifford. People are losing their homes.
I understand.
It's like snow for me. I guess
It's just like
the
a-
complete opposite.
At least
yeah.
I can picture when my dad was saying, growing up, I would have to walk in like 3 feet of baha to get to school. That's exactly what was happening.
You're probably like the ending to Shawshank Redemption, right? The guys in the rain.
Yeah.
You didn't watch that movie?
Wait,
Okay.
what's that movie?
No, never mind.
that's way too.
Never mind. Like
That
your own-
literally predates him. Said.
Sorry.
So
I'm
yeah,
an unk. I'm an unk.
if you want to donate pa rin to yung mga relief
Yeah.
efforts for those na affect ng bagyo, hit us up on the DMs. We'll refer you to some organizations that have been doing some good work. But in the meantime, go hit up Clifford, go connect with him, go set him up as well if you
Yeah.
want, or set yourself up with him if you dare.
I
And-
like to say it like this. I'm business minded like a Chinese, but I am romancing like a Filipino.
Oh, I love it.
Love that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Clifford Temprosa Li, for joining us here on the podcast. And thank you for catching another episode of Now Steaming. Do follow the show if you want to connect with us. It's at Now Steaming Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Individually, it is at _Stancy for everything that I do.
Yeah, it's at Kimberly Mas for me. For both of us, me and Ced, our works, it's at So Asian Comics on Facebook and Instagram.
And for me personally, it's at Cedric C. Chang on Instagram.
All right. So that brings us to another end of this episode of Now Steaming. Thank you so much for catching this and for enjoying this conversation with us. And we're going to leave you with another note as always. This time around, hindi lahat ng Chinoy.
Pera lang ang iniisip.
Thank you for listening to Now Steaming. Now Steaming is hosted by Stan C, Kimberly Mas, and Cedric Cheng. Renel Cheng is our writer and researcher. Our show is produced, mixed, edited, and mastered by the Pod Network.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.